I wasn't a bad man, not inherently. But the choices of my youth, those lingered. I'd been selfish, greedy even, taking more than my share, leaving others with scraps. I justified it then, told myself everyone else was doing the same.
Now, the consequences echoed in the hollow spaces of his conscience. Sleep offered no escape. Each night the faces of those he'd wronged flickered behind closed eyelids. Their accusing eyes burned into his soul. Whispers followed him, slithering into his waking hours. He was a prisoner in his own mind, tormented by a guilt he couldn't outrun.
The doctor called it anxiety, prescribed pills to quiet the noise. But Gary knew the truth. This wasn't medical. This was karmic retribution, a debt long overdue. He was cursed.
It began subtly, a persistent gnawing in his stomach. No matter how much he ate, the hunger remained. It was an insatiable beast, growing stronger by the day. Then came the nightmares, vivid, grotesque visions of starving children, their emaciated bodies, pleading eyes, and skeletal fingers reaching for him in vain.
I tried to ignore it, to reason my way out of the madness, but the curse was relentless. It wormed its way into my every waking thought. The guilt intensified, a crushing weight on my chest. I was suffocating under the burden of my past sins.
He became obsessed with food, hoarding it, yet unable to find solace in consumption. The abundance around him served only as a cruel reminder of the scarcity he had inflicted on others. His family, his friends, they watched with growing concern as he withered away, consumed by an invisible torment. Desperate for answers, Gary stumbled upon the ancient wisdom of Stoicism. He was at a crossroads in his life, seeking guidance and clarity. He devoured the works of Seneca, immersing himself in the profound teachings that spoke of resilience and inner strength. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus. These ancient philosophers became his silent mentors. Their words resonated with the turmoil within him, offering a beacon of hope in his darkest hours. He clung to their teachings, finding a strange solace in their acceptance of fate and focus on what could be controlled. It was a revelation that began to reshape his perspective.
I learned a virtue of justice, of living in accordance with nature. These principles became the foundation of my new life. A spark ignited within me. A newfound purpose began to take shape amidst the chaos. A purpose began to take shape amidst the chaos. I realized that my suffering could be transformed into something meaningful. I couldn't change the past, but perhaps I could atone. The mistakes I made could serve as lessons for a better future. Perhaps I could use my current suffering to alleviate the suffering of others. This thought gave me a sense of direction.
The curse, he realized, wasn't a punishment. It was an opportunity for growth and transformation. It was a calling, a test, a chance to rise above his circumstances and make a difference. To confront his demons, he had to confront the very real demon of hunger that plagued the world. This realization was both daunting and empowering. His journey wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a glimmer of hope. He would fight. He would persevere. Not for himself, but for every empty stomach, every pleading eye that haunted his waking hours. This was his new mission, his new path. His family, witnessing his transformation, felt a surge of relief. They had been waiting for this moment, hoping that the man they once knew would return. They saw a flicker of the old Gary returning, a glimmer of the person he used to be before the darkness took over. But their attempts to help, to fix him, only fueled his torment. The more they tried, the more he felt the weight of their expectations. They urged him to eat, to rest, to forget the nonsense about a curse. They believed that with enough love and care he could be whole again.
Gary, you need to eat. You need to take care of yourself. This is nonsense about a curse. It's all in your head. We just want you to be well again. We miss the old you.
Their concern, though well-intentioned, felt suffocating. They didn't understand. They couldn't grasp the depth of his struggle. The curse wasn't something to be cured with medicine or coddling. It was a dark shadow that loomed over him, a burden he had to bear alone. It was a burden he had to carry, a responsibility he had to shoulder. No one else could understand the weight of it.
I have to show the world that I wasn't the man I used to be. I have to prove that I can overcome this.
Their pleas for him to stop, To go back to the way he was only strengthened his resolve. He knew he had to keep moving forward. He saw the fear in their eyes, the worry etched on their faces, but he couldn't stop. He had to see this through. Their pain was a constant reminder of the pain he had inflicted on others. It was a cycle he was determined to break. He had to break this cycle, even if it meant breaking their hearts in the process. It was the only way to find redemption.
Gary, please just come back to us. We miss you. We need you.
But Gary knew that he couldn't turn back. The path he was on was set, and he had to follow it to the end. The path was set, and he had to follow it to the end no matter the cost. It was his journey, his burden to bear. His efforts to combat world hunger were met with resistance. Bureaucracy, corruption, and apathy became insurmountable obstacles.
I poured my resources, my time, my very being into the fight, yet the problem felt insurmountable.
The faces of the starving children in his nightmares multiplied, their pleas growing more desperate.
Doubt crept in. Was I deluding myself? Was this curse too great, my sins too unforgivable?
He'd sacrificed everything, pushed away the people he loved, yet the world remained plagued by hunger. Despair threatened to swallow him whole.
I found myself back in my study, the weight of the world crushing me. The words of the Stoics, once a source of strength, now mocked me.
Was this the extent of his control? To witness the suffering and be powerless to stop it? He was drowning, the surface of hope fading with each passing moment. Just as he teetered on the precipice of utter despair, a letter arrived, its envelope worn and edges frayed, as if it had traveled a great distance. It was from Vic, an old family friend, a man whose presence had always brought warmth and comfort. Vic was a man who had dedicated his life to humanitarian work, always putting others before himself. Vic had heard of Gary's mission, his struggles, and the immense burden he carried. The letter was short, but its words resonated with a power that shook Gary to his core, igniting a spark of hope.
I understand the curse, Gary. These words echoed in his mind, bringing a strange sense of relief. It's not a punishment, but a catalyst. The power of sacrifice, the ripple effect a single act of selflessness can create. It's immense. The ripple effect a single act of selflessness can create. It's immense. Like a pebble causing ripples in a pond, your actions can change the world. There's a remote village, ravaged by famine, on the brink of collapse. The people there are in desperate need of help. I have a plan, a risky one, but it could save them all. It requires courage and sacrifice, but I believe in you.
Hope, like a phoenix rising from the ashes of his despair, flickered within him. The words of the letter breathed new life into his weary soul. He clung to Vic's words, their meaning seeping into the cracks of his broken spirit, mending the pieces of his shattered resolve. This wasn't the end. It was a new beginning, a chance to rise above his past and make a difference. A chance to finally atone, to fulfill the purpose thrust upon him, and to bring light to those lost in the darkness. Vic's plan was audacious, bordering on insanity. He had secured a shipment of food, enough to sustain the village for months. But the warlord who controlled the region, a ruthless tyrant, refused to let it pass. He demanded a hefty price, one that Vic, a man of peace, could not pay.
Driven by unwavering compassion, I offered the only thing of value I had left, my life. I made a deal with the warlord. I would surrender myself, ensuring safe passage for the food to reach the starving villagers.
The news reached Gary as he prepared to join Vic. He was devastated, guilt threatening to consume him once more. Vic's sacrifice, driven by Gary's own failings, was a debt he could never repay. Yet he knew he couldn't let his friend's sacrifice be in vain. He had to honor Vic's memory by finishing what they started. Gary, armed with renewed purpose and a heavy heart, journeyed to the village. He saw firsthand the devastation, the desperation in the eyes of the people, but he also saw resilience, a flicker of hope that Vic's sacrifice had ignited. He channeled his grief, his guilt into action. He organized the distribution of food, ensuring it reached those in most need. He worked tirelessly, driven by the memory of Vic's selfless act.
I saw the village slowly begin to heal. Children laughing, mothers smiling, life returning to their eyes. My work didn't end there. I traveled the world sharing Vic's story, rallying others to the cause. I became a beacon of hope, a testament to the transformative power of sacrifice and redemption.
The curse, once a source of torment, had become his guiding light. The nightmares ceased. The gnawing hunger subsided. He was still haunted by his past, but the guilt no longer held him captive. He had found a way to atone, to honor the memory of those he had wronged and the man who had given his life to right his wrongs. Redemption, he realized, wasn't a destination but a journey.
It's a continuous process of acknowledging my flaws, striving for betterment, and dedicating my life to a cause greater than myself. I know the fight against hunger is far from over, but even the smallest act of kindness, of selflessness, can create ripples of change that extend far beyond what I could imagine.
And so, he continued his work, driven by the memory of a curse that had led him to his life's true calling. A calling to serve, to heal, and to nourish a world hungry for compassion.